Fareed, as is often the case in our current news cycles, as you were talking, the president just posted on Truth Social moments ago saying, quote, a ceasefire has been, quote, fully agreed to by Israel and Iran. There will be a complete and total ceasefire 6 hours from now. Again, this just happened. I don't want to spring this on you. And we're trying to figure out exactly what it means. It's a rather lengthy post on Truth Social. Again, we had been reporting, Clarissa and I were just discussing, that there were warnings about strikes in Tehran. There have been strikes throughout the course of the day. What do you think this means?
Well, it follows exactly what I was saying. Trump is now clearly trying to transition from war maker to peacemaker, and he's used his considerable influence with Bibi Netanyahu. Let's remember the Israelis also did massive damage. I would argue the Israeli strikes were probably more significant in setting back the Iranian program than even the American strikes, because they got to 20 of the top scientists, 20 of the top military officials, degraded almost every facility, destroyed Iran's air defenses. So Israel feels like it can stop. Trump wants to move into a peacemaking role. He wants it to stop. The Iranians obviously have it's only good for them because they have not been able to really respond in any sense to Israel's pummeling attacks because they don't have much capacity. But then the question becomes, what do those negotiations look like? The key stumbling block has been this. President Trump began the negotiations saying Iran could have some enrichment capacity, but it couldn't be the kind that could be weaponized. The Israeli position has been no, zero enrichment under any circumstances. The Iranian position has been we have to have the legal right to enrich, which is our right under the NPT. So that's where you have it. Israel and Iran were at complete loggerheads. The U.S. had a middle position. About 2 weeks ago, Trump moved to the Israeli position. So the question is, now that he wants to be a peacemaker, is there going to be any give there? Or do the Iranians feel they're so weak, they have no option but to concede to the Israeli position? That is going to be the heart of the negotiations once they begin.
Yeah, the incompatible red lines haven't changed to any degree that we are aware of at this point. Fareed, stand by. I want to go straight to Jeff Zeleny over at the White House because, Jeff, we're all just digesting this in real time right now, and it seems there's a couple caveats, a couple elements in this. What do we know about what the president just posted?
Well, what we know is the president clearly is trying to move on very quickly, not only to turn the page, but to try and close the book on this entire 12-week episode. And we're seeing the message right there on Truth Social, which just came out. And Phil, never mind how extraordinary it is to basically explain what the president hopes would be the end of a war in a Truth Social post, rather than having officials actually explain it, or the president himself. But the question is, several come to mind. One, does the president speak for Iran here? He could certainly speak for Israel, more likely that an endgame would be in sight, as we've been reporting. But it's a very much an open question, what he knows that would lead to a ceasefire. But separate of all of this, Bill, the same question remained right now tonight as it did before this message was sent out. What about the Iran nuclear program? The president has insisted it was obliterated. The president has insisted that it was wiped away. There is no evidence of that yet. So you just get the sense that President Trump is trying to move on from this very quickly, as he often does on things that are somewhat controversial. This has been controversial among his movement. There's no doubt about that. There's a classified briefing on Capitol Hill tomorrow. Many deep questions from both sides of the aisle about this. So the president clearly is trying to put this in the rearview mirror. Well, that would defy history in one respect, but also, again, the question of what is left of Iran's nuclear program. And we simply do not know the answer to that.
Jeff Zeleny for us at the White House. Thank you very much. We're going to continue to follow all of this breaking news. Joining us now is Democrat from Illinois, Congressman Mike Quigley. He's on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, as we kind of try and understand exactly what the president is laying out here on Truth Social, what's your initial reaction to the potential for a ceasefire that's being announced here?
Look, we always welcome a ceasefire. There's always room for diplomacy. It's also important to understand how we got here. the hopes is that they continue to move toward a negotiated agreement here. But that agreement sounds a heck of a lot like the JCPOA, right? The deal that Iran was in compliance with years ago. They weren't creating material necessary for a bomb, and President Trump pulled us out of that deal. And so Iran went forward developing that material, creating a threat, which he now has to go bring us to a brinksmanship form, totally unnecessary.
The administration was scheduled to conduct an all-member House briefing on their intelligence, where things stood in the operation from the weekend. There were a lot of questions, not just Democrats, Republicans had as well, going into that briefing. What did you learn?
Well, look, all we can talk about is the fact that those threats are there. The fact of the matter is, Iran is one of the largest state sponsors of terrorism, and that this attack created a very real risk for our allies and the United States at home, and obviously great concerns for our 40,000 troops throughout the Middle East and those bases there. And look, as your reporting just talked about, it's going to take some time before we know where the Iran nuclear program is. I'll say this. It's extremely complicated. They're very difficult targets. And what we're talking about here is extremely mobile. So I think it's beyond the realm of normal optimism to think that the system, the process, and where they're going has been obliterated. There are still very real concerns, but we're going to learn a lot more in the coming days and weeks.
And again, I'm very aware there are very significant limits to what you can say coming out of a briefing like the one you were just in. But it seems to be what you're saying is the president's contention that the program was destroyed, obliterated, no longer exists, does not track with your understanding of things after this briefing.
I'd rather put it in a more general way. I've been on the committee over 8 years, and whenever there's an attack like this, it takes a long time to fully assess what has taken place, what the actual results are. The fact of the matter is, it's an area that we're denied, and it's much tougher to get a true assessment. And generally, before the briefings, we all knew this stuff was very mobile. So I knew when the president said it was obliterated, it is the hyperbole of the president on a typical basis that nothing is ever going to be maybe or halfway. It's going to be total. And that's just not the way these operations work. They're never completely successful. Again, it's a difficult mobile target.
It's really important context. Congressman, really appreciate your time, especially coming out of that briefing. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.